Good afternoon. Today we will discuss the block 4 of MMPC009, generally management of machines and materials. The fourth block generally contains your materials management. Now, in materials management, the first thing comes is purchasing. Purchasing is the unit 12 we were discussing today. Now, first of all, what is purchasing? When you get some goods and services in exchange of money, that is called purchasing. The material and services, it may be materials or services, services of a persons or services of any machines through exchange of money. The process of exchange is known as purchasing. When you pay some money and get in lieu of money, if you get materials and services for our use, that is called purchasing. Now, generally, purchasing principles are usually epitomized by buying materials of right quality, in right quantity, at the right time, at the right price, from a right source and also at the right place. So, the purchasing principles are, say, basically contains 4 to 5 elements. That means you must buy right quantity of right quality of products at the right time. That means we should get our product when it is required for us and at the right price and from right source, whoever gives you at the cheaper rate where the transportation cost is less, also at the right place. So the main objectives of purchasing is to make the user departments of the organization from time to time aware of the range of quality materials available. So first and foremost objective of purchasing is to make aware of the departments the different types of materials available in the market, their quality, and to maintain the right quality of purchased material based on standard technical specification and suitability. To procure at the lowest possible cost. Every organization is a, say, profit-seeking organization, wants to make profit. That's why every organization tries to, the objective is to get the materials at the lowest cost possible and with the quality and service requirement. That means we should not sacrifice the quality at the lower at the cost of price to ensure the minimum possible investment in service operations related to purchase materials such as transportation, inspection, storing and record keeping. So if you can purchase right quality of product at right time, then right place, then our transportation cost, inspection cost, storing cost and record keeping cost all comes down. To maintain continuity of the supply, so the main objective of purchasing is to get the materials at the right time so that the work is not disrupted or the work is not halted. That's why to maintain the, say, continuity of the supply, to ensure scheduled activities are not interrupted and to integrate the requirements of all departments of the organization in order to take the advantage of the economy of scale wherever possible, also to avoid duplication of purchases resulting in waste and obsolescence, and to create goodwill for the organization through healthy buyer-supply relations. So whenever you purchase our materials from your suppliers, you must try to build a good relationship and to integrate the requirements. That means we should not purchase in small quantities. We must get the requirements of every department so that if you purchase in a larger quantity, then if you can, we'll get the economy of scale means we can get some discount if you purchase in bulk. That will also reduce our cost of production. Purchasing functions in order to meet the above objectives of the requisite in the purchasing function, the requisite inputs, possible restraints and factors must be identified. So the purchasing function is responsible for a host of decisions. So the objectives, we have discussed 6 objectives. In order to fulfill these objectives, there are certain purchasing functions and the purchasing function is responsible for a host of decisions. What are the decisions? The vendor rating. We should rate the vendor, who is good, who is bad. and we also develop the vendor, make or buy, whether you should make in-house or you should purchase from. We should analyze the value analysis, what is adding value, surplus disposal, how to dispose of the surplus, control and audit, maintenance and development of the procedure, forms, records and reports. Now, first of all, we'll discuss what is inputs. Inputs is the first beginning of any pre-purchasing activity. Now, preparation of input constitute pre-purchasing activity and decide to a great extent the success of the purchasing system. The input to the purchasing come from requisition or indent from various departments or units of the. So, the success of purchasing department depends on the quality of these inputs and also upon the ability of the purchasing department personnel to analyze the inputs to fullest extent. The most important inputs are purchasing requisitions and their accompanying product specifications. So, any purchasing say activity starts with input, and input is nothing but it is the different requirement of different department, and this requirement comes in the form of requisition or indent from various departments. And if a purchasing department wants to be success, it depends on two factors: quality of this input, how these inputs are qualitative, and how the purchasing departments are able to understand or analyze the input to the fullest extent. Yes, as I told you, the most important inputs are purchase requisition and the product specification. Purchase requisition or purchase indents is the primary and authorization document describing needed items. As I told, the purchasing function starts with input. Input comes from the departments, is nothing but input is the needed items of different. Most organizations have a standard requisition form for use of all its department. So most companies use a particular standard form of requisition and which can be used for all the department. The format, however, may change from organization to organization depending on the needs of the three most common types of requisition forms are standard purchase requisition, traveling purchase requisition, and bills of materials. Now, standard purchase requisition form is a standard for a given organization. Different organizations may use different formats. A standard purchase requisition form is used for non-recurring requirements of item. Normally contains the following information: requisition number. So, for identification, maybe blocked code including the short code for department, name of the requisitioner, year, serial number, etc. So, requisition number for identification. When is the materials are requisitioned? That is the date of requisition. Which departments needs that? Account to be charged. Appropriate head may be ticked out of the standard account heads. Description and quantity of item. You should describe the items and in what quantity you require. And what purpose the items will be used. Purpose of the items should be mentioned. And by which date the items are needed, that must also be there in the requisition form. And appropriate unit price of each say materials and what is the total cost, and suggested supplier's name and address and signature of the requisitioner and head of the department approving the authority as appropriate. So standard purchasing requisition form, it is called standard because this is given for a given organization. This is same, but for different organization may use different formats. A standard used for non-recurring. Non-recurring means those are not required every day of items and normally contain the following information. As I have already told you, there are 10: date of requisition, name of the department, account from which account the money has to be paid, that has to be ticked, description, what type of item it is, and the quantity of the item. Then comes traveling purchase requisition. This type of form is used by stores. Now, this is used by the departments, which is standard purchase requisition form, while traveling purchase requisition is required by the stores for recurring requirements for materials and standard parts. The requisition form is in the format of a card of a single item containing the information about the item, name and brief description, brief or coded names of the user department, annual user rate, reorder point, order quantity, potential suppliers, records of receipts, issues and so forth. The card can also be used for many requisition. When stock level drops to or below to reorder point, the card is sent to the purchasing department for placing the order with the suppliers. So, traveling purchase requisition is used for recurring requirements of materials and standard parts. Now, this requisition form is in the format of a card. It is in the form of a card and it is available with the stores. And the card contains many information about the item, name and brief description, name of the user department, which are the departments which are using this product, what are the annual use rate, that means in a year how many of these units are used, and there is a reorder point. Reorder point is a point where if the materials go below that point, then order should be placed. And who are the potential suppliers, records of receipt and issues, how many times you have received that items in that year, particular year, or how many times you have issued that product, and so forth. The card can be used for many requisitions. And when the stock level drops to or below a reorder point, the card is sent to the purchasing department for placing the order with the supplier. Then third one is bills of material. This is a list of all items for a finished product and is prepared at the time of engineering drawing of the product. The bills of materials and production schedule are sent to the purchasing department, which compute the total requirement each period of the production. This eliminates the necessity of typing numerous requisitions for usually a large number of items. So bills of materials is a list of all items for finished product, and it is generally prepared at the time of engineering drawing. When you draw a drawing of a product, at that time it is prepared. The bills of material and the production schedules are sent to the purchasing department, which compute the total requirement. So the bills of materials, that is contain the list of all items of finished product, and along with the production schedule are sent to the purchasing department. Accordingly, it can compute what are the total requirement of each product of the computing period. Specification of item intended to be purchased provide details, description of the characteristics and features of the item. The major objective of specification are to let the purchasing department understand exactly the features required in the item, to let the supplier know exactly what the buyer wants, and to permit the easier, quicker and accurate verification of items upon the receipt. So, specification of item is intended. Why you specify the item? Because it's a lot of utility to the purchasing department. It gives the characteristics and features of the item, and the objectives of specification are the if you specify a product, the purchasing department understand exactly the features of the required items. The suppliers, the person who will supply the product, exactly what the buyer wants, and to permit the easier, quicker and accurate verification of items upon the receipt. So if there is a specification, when you receive the product, you can easily and quickly and accurately verify by comparing with the specification. Yes, market grade. Market grades are used in case of items bought and sold in a marketplace. Yes, what is grading? Grading is nothing but is a comparison with the standard, generally and widely accepted product. Generally, trade association, commodity exchange, government agency establish and regulate such grades. So, there are different government agencies which grade the product and which specify the standard products. So market grades are used in case of when you purchase a product, we grade the product. How do you grade? You grade by comparing with standard, generally and widely accepted product. Yes, there are different types of standard. Commercial standard. These standards are used for items above the commodity level because of their widespread use. When a material or item is standardized with complete quality description and established by customs and accepted by the government, is agency, industry in general, the material and item is to be commercially standardized. Standard specification have been prepared by many items by Bureau of Indian Standards. So, commercial standard, these standards are used by items for the commodity level above this commodity because of their widespread use. When a material or item is standardized, we make a complete description and with complete quality description and established by customs and accepted by the government agencies. The material of item is, so standard specification have been prepared by many government organs. Then trade or brand names. Trade or brand names are used by some manufacturers to establish the identity of various models produced to protect them from other substitutes. Branded products are simplest to buy, procure, and specifying an item by brand name limits the scope of completion and indicates a reliance upon the integrity and reputations of the supplier to provide consistent quality. This system of specification is very economical or low cost purchases. So when you specify a standard, it indicates a reliance upon the integrity and reputation of the suppliers. So branded products are simplest to buy and procedurally it is very easy. Specifying an item by brand name limits the scope of competitions and indicates the reliance upon the integration. Material specifications define the physical or chemical properties desired in an item, such as metals, aluminium, steel, copper, drugs, oil and paints are examples of product with material specifications. Performance specification, rather than describing an item physically or chemically, performance specification describe the requirements about the performance characteristics. The seller is free to choose the materials, methods of processing and other detail. This specification commonly used in case of equipments, machine, tools. This method, however, requires proper selection of supplier. The items supplied are tested to see that stated performance features are made. Purchase of computer system is a good example of this system. So sometimes what you do, we don't specify the specification by physically or chemically, rather we specify by the performance. That is called performance specification. That is called specific. Computer system is a good example of this technique. So this seller is free to choose the materials and method of processing and other details. Then samples. In case of special items of non-repetitive nature where quality requirements are not rigid, when quantity of item is so low that it does not justify the formulation of specifications. Specifications by specimen are established by specimen or samples. The suppliers is supposed to match the sample. Difficulty arises if the samples are subject to change, physically or chemically. In case of mechanical parts for the replacement, where identification marks are not easily read, this method of specification may not be the only possible way of purchasing the item. So what happens when, in case of some items of non-repetitive nature where quality requirement is not very rigid, we can somehow compromise with the quality and quantity of item we purchase is very low. Sometimes what happens, we don't give any, formulate any specification, but specifications are established by samples. The supplier is supposed to match the samples, but there are certain difficulties. Samples may change, subject to change physically or chemically. In that case, it may not be the only way of, say, purchasing the items. Then another is blueprints. A blueprint or engineering drawing is recommended for accompanying a purchase requisition, where close tolerance or high degree of mechanical performance is required. Compared to the samples, blueprint is opposite. When you require perfection, high degree of mechanical perfection is required. Blueprints are used for mechanical parts and for construction in other projects. So a blueprint or engineering drawing is recommended for accompanying a purchase requisition where close tolerance or high degree of mechanical performance is required. Then sometimes we get combined specification. Many products cannot be adequately described as a single type of specification. In such a case, combination of two or more specifications may be used. Quite a few products for industrial uses are so complex that combination becomes a practical necessity. Now, I have mentioned different types of specifications, say performance specification, material specifications, that can then your trade or brand name. All these are in itself is not sufficient to say specify a product or single type of specification. So what the industrial users do, they combine different specifications. They combine different specifications. In such a case, a combination of two or more specifications may be used. And quite a few products for industrial uses are so complex, and combinations specification is the only answer to that. Then comes your restraints and factors. What do you mean by restraints? Restraints limit the alternative available to purchasing department for each decision. That means restraints limit your alternative available to purchase. That means you don't have sufficient alternatives to purchase a product. Similarly, the type of purchasing procedure adopted will depend on the factors related to the demand for the item. In this section, we'll discuss some of these restraints and the demand factors. So purchasing decisions are restrained by the legal considerations, management policies, resource availability, market conditions, and so forth. So, for example, I can say legal considerations. Suppose a producer in Odisha cannot purchase a product from nearby Andhra Pradesh because of some legal considerations. Or management policies. Management policy is to purchase from the local market. It may be a restraints. Resource availability. That means if you depend on a particular market, so there the resource may not be available, and market conditions. All these are called the restraints of purchasing decisions. So purchasing department commits a good deal of finance when a purchase order is placed. Therefore, necessary to have sufficient understanding about the legal aspect of the purchase. The Indian Sales of Goods Act, the Indian Contract Act, over the some important legal aspect, the important relevant laws are law of agencies, laws of contract, law pertaining to this, including patent laws, warranties, trademarks, or arbitrations. They are all legal considerations which comes under, that is, Sales of Goods Act, Indian Contract Act. All these are comes under the purview of legal considerations. Management policy may be centralized or decentralized purchase. Management may choose between centralized and decentralized organization or a mix of these two for purchases. Centralized purchasing has economic advantage due to specialization and input standardization, and thus is an attractive strategy for multi-plant, multi-location activities using related items. In addition, it offers development of specialized purchasing skills, consolidation of order quantities, which can result in quantity and cash discount, better control over inventory investment, uniform quality, and less variety of materials. So, management policies of purchasing may be two types, centralized and decentralized. If you compare both, management centralized purchasing has economic advantage due to say purchase purchase in centrally, it is purchased by in bulk, so it may get certain discount, so there is economic advantage and attractive strategy for multi-plant and multi-locations. If a farm has multi-plant and multi-location activities, so it is better to go for centralized purchasing rather than decentralizing purchasing at the same at the plant level or at the location level. It may add to the cost advantage or economic disadvantage it will give. So in addition, it offers development of specialized purchasing skill, consolidation of order quantity which can result in quantity and cash discount as I told you now, better control over the inventory investment. We should not purchase, if you purchase centrally, so you can have a better control over the inventory investment, less overlapping and duplication of effort. That means if 4 and 5 people purchase the products, there is overlapping and duplication, uniform quality and less variety of materials. If you 5 machine or materials are purchased at 5 places, the quality may vary from one place to another and the variety also vary from product to product. Centralized purchasing, however, tends to be slow, rigid, rule bound, and may turn out to be very costly for low value purchase. Yes. If you purchase in a very less quantity, it is not, say, advisable to go for centralized purchasing. And centralizing purchasing is very slow, rigid. Why it is slow? Because it has to get the indents from different departments, from different locations. It takes a time. It is rule bound and it is governed by various rules and regulations. If item required by various are unrelated and less frequently demanded, the advantages of centralized may be lessened. In such case, management may decide to decentralize the person. Yes. If the standard products are required at different locations, then it is we can go for centralized purchasing. But if the materials are unrelated and they are less frequently demanded, then advantages of centralization may be less. In such cases, management may decide to decentralize the purchase. Then resource limitations. Finance is the major resource which can seriously influence the purchasing activities. The corporate finance is shared by all departments of the organizations. That means when you talk about resource limitation, finance is the major resource which can seriously influence the purchasing activity. Lack of finance may seriously affect the purchasing activity. The corporate finance is shared by all departments of the organization. Purchase department must operate within the allocated budget. This may lead sometimes to purchasing decisions somewhat less optimal than what it would have been to purchase department being able to get the finance as and when desired. Thus, sometimes the advantages of quantity discount might have to be foregone in favor of overall financing planning of the organization. Other resources such as manpower, storage, space, and handling are also place limitations on purchasing the decisions. So, besides finance, also manpower, storage, how to keep the material space and handling equipment, how to say handle the materials or move the materials also place limitations on purchasing the. So the corporate finance is shared by all departments and purchase department must operate within the allocated budget. That means there is a particular budget in a particular financial year. So sometimes what happens, the decisions may not be optimal. That has been purchase department able to get the finance as and when desired. That means more money is allocated, but we are not able to utilize that. That would have been not there if we would have purchased is material in a decentralized way, where each department would have given their requirement and finance will be available as and when they give such indent. So thus sometimes the advantage of quantity discount may have to be foregone. So if you purchase in bulk, you may get some quantity discount, but that has to be foregone. That has to be sacrificed sometimes in favor of financial planning of the organization. So market conditions relate to the short-term and market situation which are influenced by supply and demand as well as overall national economy. Now during the shortage, the reliability of supply may be considerably more important than the price. The purchasing strategy therefore should change to cope with this situation, and ability to anticipate these condition measures to a good extent the professionalism acquired by the purchase pro. So market conditions are related to short-term market situation which are influenced by supply and demand as well as overall national. Thus, during shortage, the reliability of supply may be more important. Based on the demand factor, the items can be grouped into four items used continuously. Items that are continuously used with a fairly predictable demand can be handled under the blanket purchase orders, known as open-end purchase orders. A contract is negotiated with the supplier for a fixed period of time with quantity, delivery date, discounts, etc. This price may be fixed or kept open with the case the market price at the time of delivery will be applicable. Blanket orders conserve the time and effort of the purchasing department. Yes, very good thing. Now, there are different types of items, and based on the demand pattern, the items can be first is the item used continuously. That means a single spare parts which is used continuously throughout the year. So we require the materials throughout the year. In such cases, what happens? We don't make a fresh purchase order every time we purchase. We make initially at the beginning of a financial year, a contract is signed with the supplier or suppliers for a fixed period of time. It may be 6 months, or after that it may be renewed, or it may not be renewed, or some other suppliers may be given the contract, or it may be 1 year. And with the specification, how much quantity has to be given and what are the delivery date every year said on June and every year December, and what are the discounts, and the price may be fixed. It may be the price may be fixed price at it, whatever price is fixed at the time of contract, that may be say the price at which the product may be delivered, or it may be a flexible, or it may be kept open. Price is flexible, that means at the time of June 2023, whatever price is prevailing in the market, at that price the delivery will be applicable. So blanket orders, that is called blanket orders. That means a blanket orders is nothing but it's a contract negotiated with the supplier for a fixed period of time. Yes, large single orders. This situation of large single orders usually occurs in case of special machinery and other special goods such as computer, vehicles, building. Considerable planning and evaluations are involved. The suppliers submit their bids with all relevant details, and purchases are negotiated by comparison and evaluation of the bids. So, large single order, the product is very large and we give a single order. In that case, computers may be, vehicles, buildings. So what do? We have to make a lot of planning and evaluations. The suppliers submit their bids and we have to, with all relevant details, and purchases are negotiated by comparison and evaluation of the bids. Then small value purchases, the low cost, infrequently used items are purchased usually by the concerned department. That is at the department level. There is decentralized purchasing using petty cash or by identifying small local suppliers. For the value involved, it is not worth going through the complete cycle of purchase process. So, for example, papers or say pencils or pen, these are all small value purchases. Small value purchases, and which are purchased at the department level. It is called decentralized purchasing, and we don't go the complete cycle of purchase process. Yes, normal purchases, items other than mentioned above fall in this category and handled by the normal procedure that following the complete cycle of purchase process discussed above. Now, whatever the steps, first step, second step, we have to follow in normal purchases. Yes. Purchasing from purchase requisition, the purchasing department generates purchase orders, which is a legal document. Purchase orders vary in their format and their routing through the organization. A purchase order should contain at least the following: purchase order number, date of issue, name and address of the supplier receiving the order, quantity and describing, required delivery date, shipping instruction, price and payment terms, other conditions governing the order. So purchasing from purchase requisition, the purchasing department generates the purchase order. Purchase requisitions comes from the different departments, and by integrating all the requirement, the purchasing department generates the purchase orders, and purchase order is generally a legal document. That means if anybody don't confined to this this purchase order, there is every possibility he or the company may be sued. So purchase orders vary in their format and their routing, in which way it follows. It may also vary. A purchase order should have contained at least 8, it may be more than that. Purchase order number, what is the order number of the purchase, date of issue, when the purchase order is issued, name and address of the supplier receiving the order, quantity and description of the item, how much quantity you are going to purchase and what are the description of the items, required delivery date, when you are supposed to deliver and shipping instruction, how do you ship the product, and price and payment terms, other conditions. Yes, supplier selection. Supplier selection is another decision. Some information on external source of supply can be obtained from numerous references. So there are information on external source of supply. Industrial advertisement of the supplier appearing in the newspapers and periodicals. There is a supplier catalogs which gives details about the different suppliers. Supplier salesmen from the trade journals, trade directories prepared by the government agencies, list of suppliers approved by the government agencies, inquiries through advertisement or individual communications, and lastly, records of the organization from the past purchase. So A to H, these are the source from which you can get information about the suppliers. After compiling information about the suppliers for the needed item, relative proficiency of each potential supplier may be assessed. So when you compile the information about the suppliers, we have to study their proficiency of each potential supplier. Must be comparative quotations of the price, quality, quantity, delivery and other services. Other relevant variables are the supplier's management capability, technical ability, production capacity, quality of service, financial stability, and purchase order is then issued to the most promising suppliers. And the information about other suppliers can be stored for further references. So when you get, compiling the information about suppliers for the needed times, we have gathered information about the suppliers from the external sources from different sources. After that, we compile the information on the suppliers and we analyze each potential supplier, and we have to see their proficiency. What is their quotation? How much they have quoted their price? Suppose 10 computers they have to supply at what price of a particular configurations they are supposed to supply. How is the quality? What is the quantity? What is the delivery date and other services? And other relevant variables are the supplier's management. What is the management capability? What is their technique? Whether they have technical persons are available there in their organizations. What is their production capacity? What is the quality of service? All these factors are to be analyzed to find out who is your promising suppliers, who is the best suppliers, On this basis, we give the purchase order and we keep the address of others in store for future reference. Then timing of purchase. An organization is primarily interested in an adequate supply of materials at the best price consistent with the quality requirement. Timing is not a critical concern when purchases made in price stable market, but it becomes a critical in unstable price market situation. Following approaches may be adopted while trying to time the purchases in response to market conditions. Speculative buying. It involves purchase in excess of foreseeable requirement in order to make profit or from rising prices. Opportunity arises for such a purchase when price falls temporarily and the organization has sufficient working capital to finance such speculative purchases. What is speculative purchase? Suppose price of a particular product has fallen and it is always speculated that price may rise again in near future. What the company does it buys in excess of what is their requirement. That is called speculative buying. And speculative buying. But speculative buying is very useful when there is price falls temporarily and if the organization is very sound and it has sufficient working capital with him to finance such a speculative purchase because you are purchasing what is more than your requirement. Forward buying, it involves purchasing in economical quantities exceeding current requirement but not beyond actual foreseeable requirement. This approach is often used when prices are stable over time. It is adopted to obtain a favorable price to get quantity discount, to secure items when they are available, to protect against prospective shortages. It, however, assumes the risk of increased inventory holding, which starts off with working capital. So, in economic quantities exceeding the current requirement. So, what is economic quantity? Economic quantity is that quantity where if you purchase that quantity, your purchasing cost will be the minimum. Sometimes what happens, the economic quantity may be more than your current requirement, but company go for that because they will get certain discounts. But there are certain risks involved here. What is the risk? The risk of increased inventory. So when you are purchasing more than your current requirement, you have to keep it. You have invested that money in inventory which could have used in something else, and you are also having a store or a storekeeper, your inventory holding cost also goes up. Hand to mouth buying. This practice is resorted to satisfy only immediate current requirement and may be very uneconomical. This may be suitable in case of high value item. It is not recommended for normal operations. Buying this practice is resorted to satisfy only immediate current requirement and it is used for high value items. Time budgeting purchases. Using the time budgeting purchase, an organization can frequently purchase an item over a long periodic cycle fluctuation at an average price very close to the average market price. This is accomplished by purchasing small quantities over short operating periods of equal length. So, what is time budgeting purchase? Time budgeting purchase when there is a periodic cyclical fluctuations. Sometimes price increases, sometimes price decreases. So what the company does? Company calculates the average price for a period of 6 months or a period of 3 months. It will take the highest price and the lowest price and different prices and make an average price and purchases the items at that price. And this is accompanied by purchasing small quantities. Hedging means organization purchase the required quantity on the spot or open market at the time of sales the same quantity and at the same time sell the same quantity in future market contracting to deliver at a future date in order to mitigate the risk associated with fluctuating price. The approach is however used in case of those items for which organized commodity market or exchange rate. on the spot or open market, at the same time sell the same quantity in future at a contracting to deliver at the future date in order to mitigate the risk associated with the fluctuating price. That means I purchase at a price, if the price comes down in future, so I will be at loss. So hedging is I made a contract that in future also I will sell at the same price. So while determining the price, shipping terms should also be clarified. The shipping terms establish who will pay the freight charges, when does the buyer take the legal title to the goods, who will prosecute the loss and damage claims against the carriers. There are numerous terms of shipment, but the most common are free on board, buyer's plant. The buyer takes the title to the goods when the goods are delivered at his plant and the supplier pays all. So the buyer takes the title to the goods when the goods are delivered at his plant and the supplier pays all. FOB, freight on board seller's plant. The buyer takes the title when the goods are loaded onto the carrier and he pays all the transportation charge as well as negotiate all freight damage claims with the carrier. So this is the difference between FOB, free on board, and free on, say, seller's plant. It is buyer plant. The buyer takes the title when the goods are loaded into the carrier and he pays all the transportation charge as well as all freight damage claims. FOB seller's plant, freight allowed, legal responsibility same as FOB seller's plant, but the supplier pays the freight charges. Cost of insurance and freight contracts, the price include the cost of materials, insurance and freight. Free alongside ship used in the shipping by ship where supplier is responsible for getting goods to the ship and buyer takes titles as well as all responsibility thereafter. An important aspect of price determination involves discount, and there are different types of discounts. One is trade discounts to protect certain distribution channel when it is economical to buy from the distribution rather than from the manufacturer. To protect certain distribution channel when it is economical to buy from the distributor. Quantity discount for purchasing worth behind certain amount of money. We get quantity. Suppose you purchase more than 10,000, you will get. Seasonal discount for purchasing an off-season. Suppose if you purchase umbrella in non-monsoon season, or in cash discount for prompt and full payment. Suppose you have purchased 1 crore of material. If you make the full payment there and then, you will get 2% discount on this 1 crore rupees. Procedure. By procedure means the set of steps when the purchase transaction is carried out through from its inception to its conclusion. The following basic steps, however, must be taken. Receipt and analysis of the requisition to assess the need and description of the requirement. First, you have to receive and analyze the requisitions to assess the need and description of the requirement. Second is selection of possible sources of supply. Who are the possible sources of your supply? Determining the time, price, quality and quantity. Fourth is placing the order, following up and expediting the order, checking the invoice and receiving the order, processing the discrepancies and rejections after inspection, communicating with the account section for payments, closing the completed records, maintenance of records and files. Purchase forms are very important tools for purchasing department to standardize the communication in internal departments of the organizations and external agencies such as suppliers, local government bodies, etc. So what is purchase form? Purchase forms are is an important tools. So it makes a communication between the internal departments as well as the external agencies. So we standardize or we make a standard form of purchasing. Purchase forms form the following functions are usually employed, some of which have already been exhibited. Purchase requisitions, request for quotations, purchase order, follow-up, receiving and inspection. So purchase forms, purchase requisition. What are the requirements? Request for quotations from the suppliers. Then on the basis of the quotations, we place purchase orders. Once the purchase order is given, we follow up whether the materials have reached or not. If within the delay, we can follow up with the suppliers. Then after follow up, if the items have received, we have to receive the items as well as you have to inspect the items. Purchase records, since purchasing is a accurate records are necessary for efficient operations. These records provide a history for what has been done in the past. Supplier, price discount, quantity of delivery, etc. and provide a wealth of information upon which future decisions. Maintaining a good record system will increase operating cost, but expectedly it should bring some handsome saving in the long run. So, since purchase is not a one-time process, it is a repetitive process. It goes on till the organization survives. So, business records give certain input to the organization. Since purchasing is a repetitive, these records provide a history of what has been done in the past. That means who were the suppliers who have supplied the product, whether they have given price discount or not, what is the quality of the delivery, and provide a wealth of information. When you take future decisions, we can use these informations. Maintaining a good record system will increase operating cost and expectedly it should bring some handsome saving to the organizations. Purchase order log, it contains a numerical brief record of all purchase orders issued. It contains purchase order number, supplier's name, brief description of the purchase, total value of the orders, etc. The logs makes it possible to summarize several administrative data. Open order file, it contains the status of all outstanding order. It contains purchase requisitions, purchase orders and follow-up data. Close order file, it contains a historical data of all completed purchases. So there are three things. Purchase order log is a log which contains the purchase orders issued. It contains purchase order number. Also it supplier's name, brief description of the purchase, and open order file contains the status of the outstanding orders. That means the order has been placed but it has not been received. It contains purchase requisitions, purchase order and follow-up data. How many times you have followed, what is the purchase order, and it contains purchase requisitions we have derived from the different departments. And it contains a historical data of all completed purchases. Then vendor record, it contains the names and addresses of the suppliers and materials the supplier can supply. Commodity record, such a record is maintained on each major materials and service that is purchased repetitively. It shows the list of suppliers, annual, usage rate, price, orders placed, order received, disbursement to the department, and contract file contains the purchase records of items under a term contract. It is especially important when contract is open one or against when orders may be placed. Yes. Purchase report, since the purchasing department handles a sizable proportion of corporate finance, it is desirable to have some summary reports, then half-yearly or annually or quarterly available to the management. The purchase report contains the total value of purchase, allocation of purchase value against major items. That means what are the items and how much money has been allocated for each of these items, allocation of purchase value against each requising department. So what are the different departments, say finance, say marketing, what are the purchase value has been allocated to them, budget of for purchasing for extra for the new year, next year, for the proposal for revision of the budget in the current year. So purchase report contains all these. What are the total value, allocation of purchase value, allocation of purchase value of each department, budget for the next year, and proposal for revision of the budget. Vendor evaluation, we reliability, is the supplier reputable, stable, financially strong? Are the suppliers integrity and ability above doubt? Is the supplier going along with product improvement? Is the supplier's competitive strength as to the price and quality? These are all reliability. These are the criteria on which we can judge the reliability of the vendor. Technical capability, can the supplier provide assistance such as application to engineering? Can the supplier provide assistance as to analytical engineering? Can the supplier provide design assistance? Can the supplier handle special needs and contribute to improve product efficiency and basic processes? Then convenience. Can the supplier help reducing the acquisition cost through personal visit, telephone calls, incoming inspection, rejection of defects and spoilage, etc.? Can he offer other related products? Is he qualified to help in solving difficult problems? Does the supplier package his product conveniently? Then availability. Does the supplier assure delivery in time? Are his stock locally available? If the supplier location is advantageous, can his plan his supply to minimize inventory? Can he be depended on for a steady flow of materials? So these are the criteria in which you. Then after sales service has become very important nowadays. Does the supplier have service organization? Is an emergency services available? Or parts are available when needed? Now, when you purchase a product, there is every possibility the product or item may be defect, may sometimes break down. So, in today's world, after sales service is very important, and a supplier who is after sales service is given a better or a higher weightage as compared to his competitors. Then sales assistance, can the supplier helps building mutual markets? That means he will purchase our finished product and we will purchase his product. Will he recommend our products? That means when you supply our product, he supplies our product. Can he help us in recommending our product to our potential buyers? Does the use of supplier's product enhance appearance of the product? Then vendor evaluation, recognizing that there is a need for having good vendor. So evaluating the performance before vendor, evaluating anything. Yes, general reputation of the vendor, debt vendor service, vendor rating, quality say submitted by the vendor has always been evaluated. So a factor in making, so vendor rating is very important. Then National Association of Purchasing Agents has published 3 alternative vendor rating: categorical plan, weighted point plan, cost ratio plan. Then vendor relation, the ultimate objective is in vendor quality assistance in the production of material which is so adequately conformed to the buyers and requirements. Providing for use vendor quality data and multiple vendors for major procurement of items. Then inventory, what is inventory? Inventory is nothing but it is the raw materials or sometimes say work in progress finished goods, and inventory related cost, that is cost of carrying cost, that is holding cost, cost of shortage, backlogging cost, all these are cost involved in inventory. Cost of replacing inventory. There are ABC analysis. ABC analysis give importance to say uses of the item or the cost of the item. A type of items are generally 20% of the items, but their value is very high. B type is moderate, C is the, so a company, similarly there is VAD analysis, vital, essential and desirable categories. Then there is FSN analysis also, fast moving, slow moving and non-moving, and the company should give more weightage to this. Then SDN analysis, HMN analysis, XYZ analysis, all these analysis gives you say a very good tools for inventory control. Thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow.